Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. A reminder, we are streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday between 2 and 3 p.m. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong, who I'm going to warn people right off top. He's got some energy for today's show. So, Alex, what's going on, man? What's got you so hyped?
Oh, I'm hyped, man.
Don't say that on the record, please.
Fans are back in the arena. The Raptors have won back-to-back. We were here on Monday going through all the concerns about the Raptors. Are those all cleared up now?
No.
We're all good, steady sailing?
Did you see who the Nets had out there yesterday? Come on, man.
That's an NBA team. You have to respect an NBA team.
Half the team was older than you.
Goran Dragic.
Older than
Is
you?
Goran older than me?
No.
Okay, speak on Goran for a sec as I look up his age.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to Goran, who has, honestly, let's be real, I'm actually quite thankful for him because we've made a lot of content thanks to this man. And we will have a much longer segment dedicated to him.
Yes, we have Vivek Jacob joining us in the second segment, and we're going to actually just draft our all-time favorite Raptors villains.
That's
and
right.
This was inspired last night because Goran Dragic checked in, and from the minute he checked in, every time he touched the ball.
And I mean every time, like even short give and goes where he touched it for like half a second, the crowd was on him.
Every time when he missed 2 free throws in the first quarter.
That's amazing.
Like, that was what got the crowd going. It was a bit of a late arriving crowd, but you heard them in the fourth quarter, especially during the Raptors comeback. But let's get these Goran Dragic boos out of the way. I feel like there was a lot of conversation yesterday about whether Goran should be booed, shouldn't be booed. I think it should be separated into 2 things, okay? Number one, is there a reason to boo Goran Dragic? You probably have a different answer than me. For me, there's really no reason. He played 5 games here. He said some comments that upset some people. But overall, like, did he rip your hearts out the way Vince Carter ripped the Raptors fan base's hearts out when he stopped trying and then forced a trade to New Jersey and suddenly started averaging 28, 6, and 7, playing alongside Jason Kidd? Like, Goran didn't leave that kind of impact here. But I do think things were upsetting, right? Like, higher ambitions, showing up at the Miami Heat practice facility. Is there anything else?
Showing up at the Heat game.
Showing up at the Heat game. So,
right. Bobby also kind of mentioned it before the trade deadline because they were asking about Goran. They're like, we're going to talk to Goran's representation, but not a lot to reveal there in terms of what he wants to do. And I'm just like, really?
Yeah. So the Raptors are playing it cordial. They're playing it cordial publicly. But regardless of if there's a reason for booing Goran, the fans have every right. Go have fun. Boo Goran. I think it created a great atmosphere yesterday, and it was fun to see Goran, and he posted this on his Instagram page today. There's a screenshot from the television broadcast of him shushing the crowd after hitting a basket in the second quarter. So I think Goran was having fun, and the teammates, Pascal after said he enjoyed Goran's time here, didn't know why he was booed. But it was just a fun interaction between the fans and Goran. So I don't have a problem with Goran catching these boos.
Yeah, first of all, Alex, I mean, just about the reason why people boo. You know who the most famous artist out of Toronto is?
Who would that be?
I mean, you know. Who's the most famous artist out of Toronto?
Oh, you're talking about Drake?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like the one consistent theme, well, there's many, but the one most consistent theme about Drake's music is he's a petty man. This is a city that produces pettiness. So right away, this is like the fan base that you're talking about. Second of all, with the situation, look, there's nothing to boo him personally about. I actually don't think that I don't think he's a bad guy at all. It seems like he got along with teammates and stuff like that. That's all good. But if you go back to this past offseason, he had a player option for $19 million. He picked up that player option knowing that the Heat actually had no plans for him, which meant he had no say over where he was going. He was picking up that player option only because he's going to be part of a sign and trade because Miami wanted to upgrade on him. And they did upgrade on him. They paid $30 million to Kyle Lowry for the next 3 years, and the Heat are in first place in the East. So that's a huge upgrade at his position, okay? But he picks up the $19 million player option, and by doing so, you get the money, which is fantastic. No one's paying Goran $19 million to play basketball this year, but he gets that money. In doing so, you surrender where you're going to go. You get traded to Toronto. It's not a bad organization to end up in. Let's be real. They could have put you in a lot of different places that are a lot worse than Toronto. But before he even gets here, he disses the team. He acts like, oh, man, I'm too good for this. I'm Goran Dragic. I'm here to win a championship. I'm sorry, you've been in the NBA how many years? Where's that championship? Have you even been part of a 50-win team?
He's been part of 50-win teams.
Yeah, name one.
Phoenix.
Nah.
You sure? Did you check this?
No.
Miami.
I don't care.
They went to the finals with Miami. But go on. I see your point. Keep going. Good YouTube clip going on right here. Don't want to ruin it.
Forget it. Fine. If you won 50 games, whatever. But I'm just saying, he's here to win championships. Warriors a championship. He ends up joining the Brooklyn Nets. They're in 8th place right now. They're one game over 500. I understand that team on paper is way better when they get KD and Kyrie available very soon and Ben Simmons eventually. Like, that team is going to be very good. I understand why he chose that team. But let's be real. They're not the championship favorites in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of teams in the East that have a good chance of winning the championship that I would have even ahead of Brooklyn. Brooklyn's going to go into the play-in tournament. Okay? But regardless, before he even joined the team, he dissed the city. And remember, he had to do a whole apology tour. We got Michael Grange in here. Grange helped facilitate that a little bit. The front office even said, those comments kind of caught us off guard. Bobby's like, I got to make sure, we're straight on this. And, it is what it is. And to me, it was pretty clear why he's getting traded. Players get included in financial deals in the NBA all the time. If the Raptors could have chose not to take Goran back in that contract, they would have. It would have saved them some money. I don't think anyone wanted to. I think MLSC probably has to write a check for $15 million for Goran Dragic this year, who played 5 games, as you mentioned. Okay. Comes here. You know what? Goes through the training camp and stuff like that. He even got started the first game.
Yep.
The Raptors started him. They brought Gary Trent Jr. off the bench. Gary Trent Jr. is the most improved player on the Raptors this season. They brought him off the bench for the home opener. That's how much respect they were showing Goran. He started all preseason. Nick was like, I'm just trying to see how it looks or whatever. But as we've seen in the last couple of games, who was the better point guard in the last 2 games, Malachi Flynn or Goran Dragic?
Oh, Malachi Flynn's looking like the best point guard in the NBA right now.
Okay, all right. Just strike that from the record, please, along with my 50-win comment.
The 50-win comment was ridiculous.
All right. That was
Did you do research? This guy just said no.
I'm just speaking from a place of
anger. This guy's still feeling himself from comparing all the Raptors players to kitchen appliances on Monday. By the way, we're going to do that at some point with all our regular guests.
Damn.
Regular Raptors Show guests as kitchen appliances.
Yeah, a garbage bag isn't a kitchen appliance, but anyway, let's just move on from that portion. But anyway, so he moves on from the team. That's fine, right? The team decides we're going to go in a younger direction. Then let's talk about he's got personal things to deal with. Fine, whatever. Spends the whole time in Miami. I get it. That's where his family is. He lived there for a long time. He played there for a long time. Makes sense. Goes to the Miami Heat practice. I'm like, look, man, you tell me there's no other gyms in Miami? Okay, fine. You want to use the Heat practice? Fine, do it. You got to post it, though? You got to post that you're just publicly with another team while you're getting paid by another team. And on top of that, you go to their games, too. Wow, you're just a fan. It's that big of you just can't stay away from the fan base, right? So, look, listen, if people want to boo him, all you know what? It is petty to boo him. I'm with you on that. The thing is, the Raptors fan base is petty. The Raptors are ahead of the Nets in the standings, right? No matter what you say about what happens in a playoff setting, I agree with you. I would bet on KD and Kyrie in a playoff setting more than I would bet on the Raptors right now. But nevertheless, you're going to a team that the Raptors are now just beating back to back, right? And on top of that, my question is, what did he do to earn any other reception? Did he play well in those 5 games?
I don't remember. The only game I remember was when he started and the Pistons scored 127 points at home.
Yeah.
So the answer is no.
Yeah. So
by the way, he's 2 years younger than me. Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the takeaway from this.
So yeah, listen, the fans booing is great. I thought it brought out energy to the game. I thought the fans showed a lot of commitment to the bit. Because they were just like, anytime he touched the ball, he got booed. And it was great because when he first got to the free throw line and he missed both of those, I thought that was a great, great moment. It sounded like the pizza.
The last time I remember, fans getting that excited about missed free throws. You might remember this. This was during the 2019-20 season when Josh Richardson of the Sixers
flopped,
missed all those free throws,
all 3
in the fourth quarter.
That's the Embiid 0-point game.
That's right.
Can you imagine Embiid scoring 0 points? Just think about this season and then think back to a couple years ago, Embiid scoring 0. That's unbelievable. Same guy.
Anyways, another thing that the fans should have booed was the Raptors 3-point shooting last night.
Oh, actually, you know what? You're right. But before we get there, one last thing on Goran. The day after you lose back-to-back, you're going to post the shushing. Look, shushing in-game, I'm a huge fan of. It's my favorite celebration in soccer. Thierry Henry, iconic celebration. Especially it's a great celebration, okay? And he got Pascal crossed up and he hit the jumper, shushed him. I think that was his first basket of the game. That's cool to me in game. The day after you lose back to back, you're posting that you shushed the crowd. That's hilarious to me, bro. What's your priority? I thought you had higher ambitions.
This is like me giving up 7 goals and posting my fit pick after.
That's exactly what it is, actually.
Actually, this is me screaming at the striker, "You shot a brick," after he hit wide left, but the score was 7-0.
Yeah.
So I can actually relate to so much of Goran. Listen, I'm with you. I think it's as simple as the fans are there, they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And I think,
and also nobody got hurt. Brought energy to the game.
No.
That's what the fans are there for.
No, it was great. It actually created a great atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the atmosphere really helped the Raptors in the fourth quarter as well. They went in there trailing by 8 points and had a great comeback, and we'll definitely get to that. But the first 3 quarters was a bit of a struggle.
Yep.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I was frustrated.
Yeah.
You were there with me.
Looking up the stats, the Raptors finished 7 for 23 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how, like, most of the 3-point shooting this year was from Fred and Gary. And then last night they got 4 threes from guys not named Gary Trent Jr., 2 from Thad Young, 2 from Malachi Flynn. But regardless, they had a huge effort in the fourth quarter. Who do you think, I mean, this is an obvious question for you just to set you up, but who was the guy who pushed the Raptors past the finish line last night?
I mean, push the guy. I mean, look, the fourth quarter had a lot of heroes. I really credit Scotty with his overall energy. He made a number of highlight plays. But if you're talking about who carried them over the line, it was Gary. Gary hit 8 free throws, all in the last 2 minutes of the game. 2 3-second violations, by the way. I think Tony Brothers, after calling Pascal out of the game, 6 foul on Seth Curry, just a regular play. Okay. Usually, I'm not saying you got to swallow the whistle, but like you usually don't call ticky-tack stuff. 2 minutes left, 1 possession game against the star player.
An all-NBA player.
Yeah. So he fouled him out. I think he was like, oh, man, I didn't realize what I just did. All right, let me just quickly give 2 3-second violations right here. We'll make up for it. Anyways, but yeah, Gary carried them over the line, including the play where it's tied 103-103 after Seth Curry nailed this ridiculously deep 3 after the Nets missed the original shot, but then the tip out went out to Seth, and he nailed the 30-footer. I mean, wow, he was looking like Steph yesterday. And it was up to Gary to come up with a response, and he drove downhill, got a step on Seth Curry and drew the foul, made the free throws, and then but there were a lot of heroes yesterday, like I mentioned, man. I think Scotty played a huge part, Thad played a huge part, Malachi played a huge part. So there's a lot of guys we can go through.
Yeah, let's start with Scotty because I think he has been so impressive during these 2 wins and yesterday in the fourth quarter. Randomly throwing a jumper into the basket with the shot clock running down, the no-look pass to Thad Young in crunch time, the huge block late. I mean, we've talked about Scotty so much this season, but I want to ask you, like, is it time to raise the expectations even more for Scotty for the rest of the season, given what we've seen lately?
I choose to take everything Scotty's doing this year as a blessing. After that, I think you build more expectation. But right now, it's just sort of like, he's like a newborn baby. I remember when my brother was born when I was 10, I was like amazed.
George Lou?
I'm so happy you didn't call him Seth Curry for once.
Yeah, George Lou. Shout out to George Lou.
All right, man. Well, you just got to put his name like that out there, but that's fine. Anyway, when he was first born, and I was 10 years old, I was just like, this is amazing. Now, I got like a friend at home at all times, take care of him.
No jealousy that he was getting more attention?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not that kind of person. Like the first steps, sitting up, all sorts of stuff, learning how to crawl, learning how to speak. Like everything was amazing, right? And that's where Scotty is right now. He's like a newborn. Everything he does is amazing. And genuinely does some amazing stuff. Like that no-look pass, right? We can talk about the fact that this is a running thing for him, right? He loves doing it. He has that flair, right, that great players have, right? They know they're so good. They can do that extra stuff. I was watching back that play. There was a purpose to that no-look pass. Because if you can recall, it was LaMarcus standing in the middle of that zone, in the middle of the paint. Thad on his left, and I think Precious or Chris or someone else who was a big, maybe Pascal was like on the right side of the paint. And in making that play, I think it was Precious. In making that play, the reason why Scotty did the no-look pass, because he wanted LaMarcus to stay on the right side with Precious. And that's why he was locked. His eyes were locked on Precious, and then he threw that no-look pass to Thad to freeze the defender. There was a purpose with that. And that got Thad that extra little step, which we saw yesterday. Even though Thad was good, there were also a couple of finishes that he did not hit over the course of the game, right? And also, you just even think about it. LaMarcus is bigger than Thad. He's standing right under the basket. That extra little step that he has to take over really helps Thad in his ability to finish that play. So I think there was a purpose to what Scottie did there too. But it's not even just the flashy stuff. It's also the hustle and the energy. I already talked to us a few times, but he created 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter alone. Had that block, right? Seth Curry had a step on Gary. Gary got up in the air. Seth was going to shoot it on the way down. And Scottie was right there with the block. The Raptors only up 2 at that point. And Seth had been on fire in the fourth quarter. Someone needed to, actually stop the guy. And he did it. And then guess what? The Nets missed the next shot on the ensuing possession. Who gets to rebound? Scottie. So he was excellent. I thought he was great. He showed great leadership for a young guy. He really wanted to, put his will on the team to win, and they did that.
Yeah, he talked about feeling fresh coming out of the All-Star break, and we've obviously seen it on the court. I don't even know how to kind of put this in context, but there's just so many exciting things Scottie has shown us this year. This is the best Raptors rookie since Vince Carter. And I think it's really incredible for the long-term outlook of the team. Now, for short-term, especially with Fred being out again last night, Malachi Flynn played 43 minutes, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge wants to guard Malachi Flynn ever again.
Yeah.
So
no, he's retired from defense, man.
He's retired. So
listen, man, the funny thing with the Nets is you can't tell who's an assistant coach and who's on the roster.
Yeah, Amari Stoudemire could come out and start the next game. And
Thiago Splitter, same deal, man.
They have Kyle Korver too.
I'm saying the drop off is not big between the assistant coaches and the players.
Yeah, Steve Nash was not available last night. Get well soon.
You want to run point ahead of him. Go on.
Listen, short term, I think this is great. It's gonna. I think the Raptors should just keep buying a few more games for Fred to rest. These 2 wins without Fred is huge. They've got Detroit coming tomorrow. We know Dwayne Casey has given the Raptors a lot of problems.
That's a must-win, man. Fred has to play.
Fred, get out there. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl. Then they got the Orlando Magic on Friday. I think they could get away with just, if Fred needs to rest, give him a couple more games. But the thing I wanted to ask you about Malachi, obviously so impressive this week. Do you think when Fred returns, and he'll be back soon, is there now a boost in confidence where Malachi can, not necessarily, he's not going to play 40 minutes, but can he replicate this type of production if you're giving him, say, the 15, 20 minutes now in the backup role?
Yeah, I hope so. I think part of why Malachi's playing better, too, is that, he's not just only playing with the bench guys. It's really hard to create offense for that bench, right? So when you're throwing him in there, just only create with the bench, it's going to be a lot harder than when you're in the starting 5. You could set up Pascal. You could, driving kick to Gary. You can find Scottie. There's just better players to play with when you're in that starting group. Also, obviously, you got the whole game to sort of step into your rhythm, and thought he did a better job with that. But I think there are things that he can sort of apply, and I think what he's done is that, in the last few moments here, and Nick talks about after the game, I don't think he really liked that question all that much about, hey, why you weren't playing Malachi a lot at the start of the year, what's going on?
Yeah, so he said, quote, "We gave him some chances. It didn't look like he was ready to go. He just wasn't impacting. We've given him a few shots lately, and he's produced. That's the only thing I can judge you on. You go out there, you play your minutes, and if you play well, I'm going to play you, period. If you don't, I can't."
Yeah.
That's just the facts.
Yeah, and I think he's totally right to not even defend himself, but just explain himself in those terms. Because, I'm looking at the game logs right now. There's just not a lot of high-impact shifts from Malachi at the start of the year, which is fine. It's fine, right? I think the Raptors saw Delano, and he had a really hot start to the year. He had a really energetic start. They put Delano ahead of him. I don't think anyone's complaining. Delano's producing well. Of late, Delano sort of tailed off. I thought yesterday he came in the game 6 minutes. Hard to judge a guy in 6 minutes, but 2 live ball turnovers that led the Nets to score. I think that stretch was probably the Raptors' worst stretch of the game. Nick probably has to scrap that lineup where Delano's running point with a whole bunch of bigs, and it just was not going at all. At the end of the third quarter there, the Raptors, I think, gave up a 10-0 run. So, yeah, but of late, I think Malachi has really come on, and he's used his chances. I thought in that Houston game he played well. In that Minnesota game, he came in and gave them a little bit. And then even just the last couple of games here, he's done positive things, right? Even the game where you shot 2 of 10, when I was watching it, I was still thinking about, he's taking the right shots. Obviously he was missing, and that was against Atlanta. He shot 2 of 10. But, he was taking the right shots, and the offense is sort of in the right places. I'm fine with that. And I think for Nick, he has to sort of think about, how can I use Malachi, right? Going back to that kitchen utensils thing.
Right.
You're not just gonna. You're not
Classic.
You're not gonna cook every dish with a whisk.
A classic.
But like
yeah, that's why I learned at George Brown. Yeah. Also, how to put a chicken into the oven. Yeah.
What does that even mean? Man?
Anyways,
how do you mean how to put a chicken in the oven?
You know who asked us about
George? The oven door and you put it in.
You know who asked us about the George Brown Culinary School story yesterday at the arena?
Who?
The Raptor.
That's right.
The Raptor mascot, friend of the program.
That's right.
He wants a DoorDash code, by the way. Like his own DoorDash code.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make that happen.
I think we can get that.
But yes, you were talking about Malachi.
Yeah, right. You're not going to cook every dish with a whisk. He's like a whisk, but you got to know which situation you got to use him in. And I think for me, I like the fact that he's really composed and you can like run the offense and you can trust him to do some like point guard skills without any hitches, because I think sometimes you watch Delano and some of these other like unorthodox, like even Scotty, the same deal. Like they're big, they're tall, they're lanky. It's just not as smooth and it's not as crisp as the way Malachi would. You think about the ball handling, it's really sharp with Malachi. He gets the right spots. Vivek, who we're going to have on the second half of the program, pointed out 145 minutes play for Malachi. He has only had 2 turnovers over the course of 7 games. That's really good. That's like not exciting. You're like, wow. One of the big selling points, he doesn't turn the ball over. But that's true, though. That's a big thing, right? I think that defensively, he needs to have the right matchups, but he can be effective in his matchup. Usually it's a small guard. And when you see him, and this is the pattern that Nick has gone with. When you see it early in the year, played him a lot against Indiana. Why? Because TJ McConnell's on that team. You can match up with a guy like that. Played him against the Knicks. You'll see him a lot guarding a guy like Emmanuel Quickly. Another small, quick guard. Against Brooklyn, this is a perfect matchup. A, none of these guys can move their feet because they're all old. But B, like, you have Seth Curry, you have Patty Mills, you have Goran Dragic. You trust him to guard all 3 of those guys. In fact, you trust him to use his quickness to pressure all those guys. So the matchups are good there. But I think for me, it's sort of just like you got to bring him in the right situation. And I think Nick has to find what that is. The thing with me is like all year I've been thinking about this whole team is 6'9" guards, or 6'9" forwards, except for, Fred and Gary. Right. And so Malachi doesn't fit in. But I also think about the idea that because he's different, that actually offers you something of a change of pace, right? And that's maybe the other way to approach it. And of course, when Fred's available, there's not much of a change of pace, obviously, because Fred's also small, but he does play differently for Fred. But I think Nick should find an ability here. And listen, if he's really going to go with who's been playing well, who's been showing me things, then when Fred comes back, who's going to be your backup point guard? I mean, clearly Malachi's played ahead of Delano of late, right, in the last couple of weeks. And that's probably going to shift back and forth because both guys are talented. But, when we see that rotation again, I hope to see Malachi in it. The only issue for me is I don't think he can play with Fred. That's just too small.
Yeah, so it'd probably him.
And if Fred plays 40 minutes, then that means he only got 8 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But, you'll get Malachi, when everybody's healthy. You got Thad Young coming off the bench, Precious, Chris Boucher.
Mm-hmm.
So, starting to see an 8-9-man rotation there. Speaking of Fred, so he missed his 3rd Raptors game in the past 5 because of the sore right knee. Nick basically gave an update that he probably can play, but they're trying to see if they can just buy him some rest. Also said that nobody's super healthy this time of year. Nobody's going to be 100%. I would expect Fred, I would say rest him for 2 more games, but we'll see. Maybe he'll be in tomorrow. The better injury update was OG Anunoby. So
that's right.
OG saw a specialist on Monday about his ring finger fracture. And basically, the news was great. The injury is almost completely healed. Nick said that he could probably play right now, but the specialist recommended that if OG gets 2 weeks of rest, it will be fully healed. So it's going to be a 2-week period of OG Anunoby being questionable on the injury report. But this is great news.
Yeah, it's definitely great news. Obviously it's not a thing that's going to affect them in terms of like needing a surgery. I didn't expect it to be honest. A minor fracture in the finger, like, again, a lot of people have suffered this injury. Like, rarely are you going to get a surgery for it. He first experienced some discomfort on the 12th, or this was the first time it was sort of described or captured on the camera and whatever. And that was game he shot 4-16 in the loss at Denver. He gets blocked at the end by Jokic. So this is an injury that he's already had for a while. And again, it seems like if he could just like chill for another couple of weeks here, he should be okay. I think to me, what was positive was Thad Young sliding into that OG role. And this is something that I'm not trying to say like I should coach the team. This is ridiculous, right? But there's like actually something I like suggested.
You should have coached them last year in Tampa at the end of the season,
team, bro.
You should have coached one game at the end of the season.
I literally know nothing about basketball. But in any case, it just made sense to me that you would go like for like in that replacement, right? And what we saw at the end of the game was the regular starting group, right? Obviously, Malachi in place of Fred. Gary's out there, Scotty's out there, Pascal's out there. And then that fifth guy, they didn't go with the center at the end there. They went with that. And that most closely mimics to me what the role OG would have played. Because there's that switchability on defense, right? The Raptors in the fourth quarter, they really got their switches right. They really were able to, slow down Brooklyn's offense with the switches. There were a lot less of the pick and popping action that was really hurting them a little bit. But on the other end, it's also Thad Young hitting 2 threes, both from the corners. And that's exactly probably what you expected from OG if you had him healthy. He probably offensively, his role would have been to hit 2 threes and make 2 dunks. And that's what Thad Young gave the Raptors down the stretch there. So it just made sense to me. Like you can keep the structure of the team the same rather than necessarily force feeding a center into your groups. So especially with Thad playing the way he is right now, like I actually think that you can, because he's on the team now, you can buy him some time. Before the trade deadline, if you still had Goran, for example, instead of Thad, then you had no replacement for OG. Maybe you do have to rush him back. But if Thad can sort of play, and it's not even an if, we know that. He's a solid vet. He's been in this league a long time. Then, yeah, why not?
Yeah, 2 huge wins for the Raptors and now 4 games up in the loss column for the 7th seed against Brooklyn. They split the season series with the Nets, so all sorts of tiebreakers and all that stuff we can sort out later. Brooklyn might be coming here for the 7-8 play-in game.
Yeah, I don't like that at all, but
yeah, me neither, but we'll worry about that down the road. Right now, the vibes are good, so let's draft some all-time Raptors villains after the break.
That's right, and we're going to bring in Vivek Jacob to help us with that. So that's a good spot for us to take a break. I'm your host, Walu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Walu. We are joined in the second segment by Vivek Jacob of Raptors.com. And Alex, we're going to do a bit of a draft here. What's going on?
Yeah, V, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Long time no see. How are you guys doing?
That's right. We did see you yesterday, and you're looking good, man. This guy showed up to people who, I mean, look, I'm literally carrying a ball on the YouTube broadcast and also on the TV broadcast, I guess. But to let the listeners behind the scenes, we pulled up, we chatted, usually me, Alex, Vivek, Keyshawn, other people as well. I feel like I'm forgetting people. But we usually hang out before the game, watch the warm-ups.
Liban Osman.
Liban, of course. That's right, the young boy. And I noticed halfway through that Vivek was wearing indoor soccer shoes, just as like a regular dressing item, which is not as strange to me, but that's because I know how much of a real hoop head Vivek is. So just wanted to let people know that.
Yeah, no, shouts to Big V, man. Big V, we're here today. We're going to draft, in honor of Goran Dragic getting all the boos last night, we're going to draft our all-time favorite Raptors villains. And because you are the guest, we're going to give you the number one pick. So this is across Raptors franchise history, people that just have been a villain, a nemesis to the Raptors over time. Maybe it's just one specific season, one specific play, however you want to go with. What is your first pick, V?
Look, I think his return game, nothing will ever beat that. Vince Carter, when he came back as a net, nothing will beat the boos that he got, the treatment that he got in that game, and deservedly so. He left in pretty bad fashion, not wanting to try, not wanting to dunk, and then we saw how the numbers popped up once he went to New Jersey. So I will take Vince Carter number one.
By the way, I'm just going to interject because I know Alex is going to say something here. I've never seen Alex look up stats in my life, but right now he's got Vince Carter's entire career game logs right now. Alex, what are you going to say? Because I know you're passionate about this subject.
No,
you were there at that time.
I just want to read out the stats of Vince's last few months in Toronto during the 2004-2005 season. In 20 games, he averaged 15.9 points, 3.3 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. And then in the 57 games that season after he was traded to New Jersey, 27.5 points, 5.9 rebounds, 4.7 assists. So that's just to back up the fact
I thought, didn't he have an ankle injury, though? Wasn't that the reason, Alex?
Anyways, the number two pick belongs to Will Lou. Will Lou, who is your first all-time Raptors villain?
You know what? You guys are going to be surprised by this one, and I might be overdrafting here. The entire TNT Bulls.
I like that.
I don't know how to say this other than the Raptors lost to the Bulls in a period where I think it was 12 straight games they lost. And during that time, the Raptors had better records than Chicago every single year, except for the fact that when they played the Bulls, no matter who was available, usually it was Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler broke one of Michael Jordan's records for most points and a half, scored 40, I think. Raptors lost in overtime. You got Robin Lopez fighting Serge Ibaka, right? One of Serge's top 5 fights.
Top 5 is not 5. Serge also fought a Raptor staffer. Do we forget this?
Yeah,
he was suspended one game. Shout out to Serge.
Are you talking to Jordy soon?
Check out how
Jordy,
that's right, Jordy on the program Saturday. Anyways, yes, go on. TNT Bulls.
But seriously, it was Nate Robinson, it was Doug McDermott, it was whoever the Bulls had. They would just torch the Raptors. So I'm gonna go with the TNT Bulls for my first pick in terms of Raptors villains.
Love that. So my first pick, I'm going to go with Lawrence Frank because
very good. I like that.
He spent the entire 2019 season as the Raptors were trying to make their championship push and eventually did raise the banner at Scotiabank Arena, hanging out at the arena. Did you ever see Lawrence Frank in person?
So that season was still at a time where I had to get like game passes instead of like the season pass. Media-wise, I was still on that level until I got to Yahoo, and that was like late March and stuff like that. So that's when I was in the building consistently. So I wasn't in the building that much at that time.
Yeah, I never saw him in person, but obviously all the reports were.
We had Devlin on the show, and Devlin, we joked about this with Devlin.
Yes,
and Devlin was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. He was around.
He was showing up during road games too, from what I remember from what Devlin said. I'm gonna add Steve Ballmer to this just because he showed up right before Super Bowl weekend to sit courtside for Clippers, Raptors, and I'm going to add Doc Rivers too. This man got fined in the playoffs for comparing Kawhi to Michael Jordan. So they were just doing a full court press on Kawhi. But my first pick is Lawrence Frank.
Very good.
Second round, Vivek, who is your next all-time Raptor villain?
I'm gonna have to go with Paul Pierce.
Ooh,
Mm,
damn,
yeah,
you know
that
what?
one hurts.
No,
That
this-
one
this
still
team-
hurts.
This team is
That one
destroying
still
all of ours.
hurts.
This guy
Oh,
got Vince
yeah.
Carter and Paul Pierce. Who let this
Okay.
happen, man?
Yes, V. Elaborate on Paul Pierce's greatest hits against the Raptors.
I mean, come on. You think about all those games
Yeah, you're right.
with the
It's a lot, though.
You want me to exactly.
no, go ahead,
Think
go
about
say
all
it.
those
It's
games
a
with
lot.
the Celtics. You think about that Wizard series. I mean, you would think at this point he is washed up and done with, but he comes out and he's bringing out the brooms on the Raptors. He's posting on social media him on the throne, King of the North, and
You also
That
forgot,
was-
V, you also forgot before the start of that series, he did a sit down interview with ESPN.
and said
he
the
said,
Raptors don't have
yep,
it.
the Raptors don't have it. And he was right.
He was right.
Yeah,
And he was still playing like he had it. That was the worst part.
man.
Like the fact that he was the one that was putting away the Raptors in these fourth quarters, that was the worst part of it.
That's
And
pretty
then
tough.
you could talk about the Brooklyn series too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The start of that We the North era where him and KG get it done in Game 7, and he's blocking Kyle Lowry at the buzzer. I mean, geez, I mean, I might have had to draft him number 1, but I'll take it.
No, this is great. I mean, Vince is definitely the number one answer. Like, there's not even a contention for this, really. But Vince is definitely the number one pick. But Paul Pierce is a very good pick. Look, I'm gonna have to go and just take the obvious one here. I can't believe he's fallen this far. LeBron James, Mr. LeBronto himself. I mean, let's be real here. Not even just talking about the 3 straight years that the Raptors got bounced. Not even talking about the fact that 2 of those years he swept them. Not even talking about him spinning the ball in Serge's face, sipping the beer. You know, the year before that, series gets tied 2-2. Raptors are higher than they've ever been. And he says after the game, been in a lot of adverse situations. This ain't one of them.
He said he had higher ambitions.
He
said he
did.
had higher ambitions.
No, listen. If you're LeBron, you could say that. All right. But let's be real. Goran is nowhere close. By the way, someone in the chat actually did the research. Goran's played, 13, 14 years? He had one 50-win season. He probably would have had 2 if he stayed with the Raptors this year. Brother. No, I'm kidding. Well, that'd be nice if the Raptors won 50. But anyway, let's get back on topic. LeBron, not even talking about that David McMenamin tweet of LeBron walking off with Drake,
The margaritas.
saying, margaritas
Oh,
on you,
yeah.
Drake. The corny, he somehow managed to out corny Drake in a diss, which was incredible. But I'm even going back to 2009. You guys know what I'm talking about?
The Chris Bosh game.
That's right.
Yep.
Him
You know, I got my parents' courtside seats for that game.
So it was your parents' fault, huh? In addition to Chris's partner.
Yeah, so describe this one, because I think some people might not
Yeah.
remember.
First off, go look up the clip if you haven't already. But apparently, Chris's partner at that time was sitting courtside, and the Raptors were up. They were doing well. And apparently, they kind of got back and forth with LeBron a little bit. Then LeBron started really turning on. And this is like MVP level LeBron, right? And he led the Cavs to come back. They won. At the end of the game, you could see him. It was captured on the camera. You can hear him saying it. It's your fault. It's your fault. So that's tough. But yeah, LeBron has owned us his whole career, bro. I don't know what else to say. Aside from the most, when he went to the Lakers and the Raptors beat him a few times, that was cool. It felt really great, but that's it. LeBron is definitely the number. He should have been the number 2 pick, actually. Let's be real. But I took the TNT Bulls for some reason.
All right, so for my second pick, I'm going to go with Hiru Turkoglu because
Okay.
he was a huge free agent signing that summer for the Raptors. I remember this whole intro press conference. He came out, I believe, at the school. They had the kids lined up. He was high-fiving them. And we all know how that season turned out. I think, yep, most people remember him for that clip. I think he did like a pizza commercial.
Oh, he did a couple.
He was...
Yeah, by the way, let's walk through that pizza commercial for people who weren't outside at that point. So talk me through that commercial. What's going on? Where is Hito? Put him in the room.
Isn't he just sitting on the couch with a box of pizza?
He's literally lounging.
He's lounging.
Yeah, he's lounging. He's got a pizza box in front of him. He's munching on pizza.
And
Right.
mind you, this clip was coming out while he was not playing. Like there were times when he was injured or he was out of shape.
That's right.
And this was what was happening. And just
Yeah.
overall bad vibes. And that was towards the end of the Chris Bosh era here because Turkoglu, you looked at him like he had a great playoff run with Orlando the
Yeah.
year before. They went to the finals, and this was such a huge signing
That's
for the
right.
Raptors.
Raptors got him ahead of Portland, I believe, was the competing team.
Yes.
And it's because Hito's wife was like, Toronto's an international city. I'm going to enjoy all the fine food that's here. And he did a pizza commercial. But keep going.
Yeah, and this was the piece that fans thought was going to keep Chris Bosh from leaving in
Yes.
free agency. and it was a completely nightmarish season, and they just traded him after the year, and he just became a villain here in Toronto because he's remembered as the worst free agent signing this team's ever had.
Yeah, the Raptors ended up trading for Leandro Barbosa, which at that point Leandro was sort of really cooked. But yeah, that was pretty tough. And as you remember the rest of that commercial, like he's ignoring calls from Jay Triano. Eventually picks up, and Coach Triano was like, "Hey, are you watching tape? Are you studying the defense?" He's like, "Yes, coach. Yes, coach." And I'm like, "Oh my god, please! Like this is what I didn't realize this was. They made that commercial using open gym footage. Apparently,
it was art imitating life. So,
yes, coach. Hope you're focusing on your matchup. Yes, coach.
oh man, all right,
all-time commercial though. All-time commercial. Pizza really won on that one.
All-time commercial. Third round, all-time Raptors villains, Vivek.
So now it gets really interesting.
Right.
I'm thinking that, to be true to the Raptors fan base, I'm gonna have to go with a referee here.
Ooh,
is that
Tony Brothers?
Is that fair game?
I mean,
does it have to be players and coaches?
No, that could be anybody, man. Lawrence Frank was Alex's first pick. This is like when what's his name? When the TNT was doing the all-time players draft, and Charles Barkley had the first pick, and he said Allen Iverson. Anyway, keep going though.
I mean, it's probably a toss-up between Tony Brothers and Ed Malloy.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Mark Davis. Remember, he had to get escorted out by security.
You know what? That's a good call, Will. I'm gonna go at the buzzer with Mark Davis.
I mean,
Mark Davis.
Just take all three. That's the crew. You got the whole crew.
Okay, there it is. That 3-man crew would do the Raptors so dirty. It's incredible. I mean, yeah, you bring up that game. I remember it was an OKC Thunder Raptors game, and then you had Dwayne Casey getting ejected.
Yes, that's right.
He gets ejected right at the end, and then Kyle and Dwayne Casey are just laughing because they actually didn't do anything. I believe it was someone in the crowd that yelled something.
Yep.
And then they thought it was Dwayne Casey and teed him up and ejected him. And we've seen quite a few clown calls over the years. So give me that 3-man crew of Mark Davis, Ed Malloy, and Tony Brothers.
You just got drafted a whole ref crew, man.
This man said their names are.
This is history in the making. Yo, V, I gotta say, V's killing this draft right now.
Oh,
V's crushing us in this draft.
Unbelievable, man. That's so tough.
All right, Will.
I'm gonna take the next pick. For me is more personal for me. I mean, I think he is a villain. Not necessarily because of how he played or what he did, but just like he was a villain in the sense of how much like mind space, energy, and just like overall debate that took place over somebody who clearly just wasn't that good. No offense to him, is Andrea Bargnani.
I despise that dude.
I do. Like I think it was one of those first things for me, or as I was remembering coming up as a basketball fan, is just like the advanced stats. They were universally saying that he was a bad player, but there was also so much like hype and debate, and was like, well, maybe we put him at 3, maybe we, he actually is good at defense. He's great at post defense. I'm like, I'm watching the game, bro. Like, there's no way he's good at defense. The Raptors are last in the league. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Andrea Bargnani because he also had that thing where he did have like genuinely moments of talent and ability, but it just never really followed through. So I'm going to go with Andrea for me.
Okay, I'm going to go off the board a little bit with this one. I'm going to take the city of Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Bucks social account.
Ooh.
Because I feel like there's just been a lot of social interactions where the account has taken Drake lyrics and didn't they do a rap song? Like the city of Milwaukee, they did a rap song during the conference
Milwaukee
finals.
Bucks.
And, in general, just Mike Budenholzer calling out Drake during a conference finals.
Massages. Yeah.
So just Milwaukee in general. It's so weird seeing Serge in that uniform right now, by the way.
Yeah.
So Milwaukee for me. So Vivek, we're going to head into the 4th round here. I'm really curious what you're going to do with this pick.
All right. So I feel like at this point, I got to have a little fun with this one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Wale.
Oh, that's a D. Oh, man.
My God, I love your team,
V is
man.
crushing
your
this,
team
man.
is so good.
V's crushing. I got Lawrence Frank in the city of Milwaukee. What's going on, man?
I mean, Wale did our man Matt Devlin dirty. And so,
Well, let's
I
be
think
fair though. Matt Devlin did them. Matt Devlin
I mean-
and Leo did them dirty, man.
I mean, it is. That's true. That's true. That's
They
true.
did dirty,
That's
yeah.
true. But
Yep.
at the same time, you don't expect things to escalate to the point that they did.
Mm.
And so that's an instant villain. You go at the king, Matt Devlin. We got to ride and die with him. So
Damn.
that's right. And so I'm gonna go with Wale.
That's a great pick. That's a deep cut too. That's how you know Vivek's. He's not new to this. Like, he's been around. He knows all the little details.
Vivek is an OG, man.
This is amazing. Okay, I'm surprised this has fallen to me. So I'm gonna be a hater and go ahead and pick him, even though he's a great character for the franchise. Dwayne Casey.
Yes.
Yeah, let's be real. Of late,
An accidental villain.
yeah, that's right. And you know what? Because
He's not. He's like a nemesis.
It's a great troll.
He's an accidental villain because
all he's doing is his job, which is to win games.
yeah, but he's doing his job way too well for a team that's
right.
not
Raptors Pistons coming up tomorrow as well.
for a team that's clearly rebuilding.
Yeah.
Didn't they have 12 wins at one point and 2 of them was against Toronto this season? And this is not the first time that Nick Nurse has had to try to avoid a sweep from Dwayne Casey.
Oh,
Like, this is not even the first time. So I'm glad you drafted Dwayne because he does belong on this list.
Yeah, I think to me, one thing with Dwayne is just like there is the post-career, the post-Raptors thing, which is like just whatever. Remember when he celebrated, he jumped on the court, he was like high-fiving and hugging. Who hit the game winner, like Reggie Bullock or Rodney McGruder or
They
something?
carried him. They were going to pour Gatorade on him. It was legit like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You remember all the quotes coming out of the locker room after? They were like, we wanted this for Dwayne.
Years since, right? So here's the thing. I understand if it was at that time. Isaiah Stewart, who is new to the team, he's a sophomore, right? Even he, after beating the Raptors this year, he's like, I know how much this means to coach. All right, so I think there's that portion, but there's also the portion of if you're around for those playoff years. I think there's a lot of debate because Dwayne was objectively a good coach, developed a great program here. I think he deserves so much credit, right? Having said that, the Raptors got swept 3 out of the 4 years before he got fired. So, I think there were things that people complain about. When the surprise starter was Tyler Hansbrough one game in the playoffs, I was a little mad. So I'm gonna get Dwayne to coach my team right here. Alex, your 4th pick. I can't wait to see who you pick, man. This guy's gonna be like a Herbie Kuhn or the
No, I'm in my bag. I got 2 picks left.
the Coney Island hot dog.
We should go one more round. So since I'm the OG, it's been established. I'm going to take all these former Nets, New Jersey / Brooklyn Nets players who never came here to Toronto or just refused to come. So I'm talking about Kenny Anderson in the Damon Stoudemire trade. He didn't come here. Alonzo Mourning wanted a buyout after the Vince Carter trade. And I'm going to throw Goran in here, I guess, because Goran is a net.
Yeah.
And Goran played 5 games here, had higher ambitions. So I'm going to go with that. So let's go. You guys got more? Let's go one more round.
Let's go one more round. Yeah.
Let's go one more round. Vivek, your final pick.
Wow, this is tough. This is really tough now. Let's see. I am going to go with just, a guy who has given the Raptors a lot of unnecessary frustration. And Will, obviously, you named an award in honor of him.
That's right.
I'm going to take Mr. Gerald Henderson.
That's very good.
The number of times this guy came through against the Raptors. I mean, and doing it in a Bobcats uniform too. Just added insult to injury. I mean, yeah, that's going to be my final pick. Again, you named an award in honor of him. That's how much damage he did to this franchise.
No, that's awesome. By the way, there's just no pain as bad as someone beating you and they're wearing a blank uniform that just says cats on the front. It's different, man. Especially when it's seriously, if people haven't looked this up, Blake Murphy actually did a great job of this. He actually did like a whole piece essentially built around this idea of the Gerald Henderson All-Stars of like the players who have exceptionally raised their level against the Raptors in general, and Gerald is definitely one of those top groups there. I think for me, just in keeping with my hate for this franchise in general, but just the Boston Celtics, I think part of this is like the Bruins abusing the Leafs, kind of like bleeding over to this side. Part of this is the Red Sox, handling the Blue Jays is bleeding over.
So just Boston as a sports city.
Yes, they're way too successful. I'm not sure. Did the New England Revolution beat the TFC or something? I don't even know. But in any case, though, the Celtics have done a number on the Raptors. Obviously, the 7-game series, to end that championship defense season in the bubble was painful. I think you look at even just going back, Gerald Green throwing down a windmill dunk at the end of a blowout was hard to watch.
KG slapping the floor.
Yeah,
against
KG
Jose
walking on
Calderon.
all fours to mock Jose Calderon, man. It's Jose Calderon. Like, I understand if you're doing that against Chris Bosh, like, at least you're doing it to another great player. Like, what did Jose do to deserve that, man? But we also know that KG used to really like to pick on some of these European players. And you know what? The xenophobia is strong with the Boston Celtics franchise. But in any case, let's just go with the Boston Celtics. I dislike them, and they're going to get a whole spot here for me.
All right. So I'm going to wrap up. My final pick is going to be the pandemic because
What?
it ruined.
No,
because listen.
Get out of here, man. Get out of here. What are you talking about?
Before the pandemic suspended the 2019-20 season, the Raptors were 46-18.
Okay.
They had just won in Utah, 15-game win streak. Vibes were great. Everybody was saying, Raptors going back to the basement after Kawhi left. They were on their way, and I will always believe that if the pandemic did not interrupt that season, they got to play the season out, have a regular playoffs, be in front of the Scotiabank Arena crowd, that they would have returned to the finals.
Okay, fine. You're right. Yeah, the pandemic sucks. All right. I can't believe you drafted. How did you draft the pandemic? All right, so let's go through the teams really quickly. Vivek's team of Raptor villains is Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, the refereeing crew of Mark Davis, Ed Malloy, and Tony Brothers, which is actually making me physically ill if I read those names together. Wale and Gerald Henderson. Alex has Lawrence Frank, Hito Turkoglu, Milwaukee in general, which is hilarious. All right. Former Nets who don't really matter but chose not to play here. Kenny Anderson, Alonzo Mourning, Goran Dragic, and the pandemic. This guy said COVID-19. Okay. And then
Guys,
yeah.
I saw something on Twitter, so I'm just going to quickly throw it out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since we've completed our draft, shout out to the fan who sent this, the security officer who shoved Masai Ujiri.
Oh, that's right.
Bursey.
All-timer.
And the Warriors' minority owner who shoved Kyle during the
right.
I
finals.
hate that dude.
Yeah, seriously. And then my team real quick, TNT Bulls, LeBron James, Andre Bargnani, Dwayne Casey, Boston Celtics. That does it for us today. I'm your host, Walu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. Please rate and review. Thanks to our guest, Vivek Jacob. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to our producer, Derek. Jennifer Rolnick, helping us behind the scenes with YouTube. And we'll talk to you soon.